I received a wound under the left shoulder blade, and the bullet came out over the heart. The force of the shot, fired from about 15 feet away, knocked me over. We all went over as a result of the 2 volleys. I was still conscious and I heard other shots. The firing continued for about 5 minutes, I think, and they fired some shots into the bodies on the ground. Some of the boys spat and cursed and called the Japanese murderers. The Japanese yelled, laughed, and seemed to be firing at random. Suddenly everything went quiet. I waited a while and looked around to see that there were no Japs. Then I struggled to a sitting position and tried and finally released the Hessian tied on my hands. I quietly asked if anyone could speak or move, and no one answered or moved. I decided to go down the gully, and after about 75 yards walk, I collapsed. I regained enough strength the next morning to move about a bit, and 2 days later I washed my clothes in a pool and then moved towards Singapore. I could not see any of the others about. After about 10 days I arrived at Singapore and was picked up by a British civilian personnel working for a hospital and taken to the Changi camp, about 15 miles away. I was there 3 months in the Japanese hospital, which was formerly an Australian General Hospital in Singapore. A Professor Tratman, a detained civil prisoner of war, advised me in Changi camp to act in an abnormal way if I were questioned. The Japs treated me fairly but said it was too dangerous to remove bone splinters of the ribs. Major Bertram Nairn of Perth operated on me in Changi camp and removed the bits of bone in 1943. He saved me, for at times the wound broke out and would not properly heal. I suffered, as you can imagine, and he treated me wonderfully. Now, not only did this gentleman, whose name, by the way, is Leslie William McCann, born the 31st of March 1922, was a member of the 2nd of the 4th Machine Gun Battalion that left from Western Australia. But also in that line of 15 men, those POWs, was a man by the name of Fred Airey. It's like A-I-R-E-Y, okay? And in his book he recounted being on the far right of that firing squad. Leslie McCann was on the left. Now when Leslie McCann finally was well enough, he was taken into the Changi camp, prison camp. And it says here, when Les came through, he told the officers his story. And when he told them about the 15 odd being lined up and shot, they would not believe him. And they said, "Who was there that you know?" He said, "The only bloke I know was Fred Airey, Regimental Sergeant Major." Well, Airey was a permanent soldier. He had been in the army all his life. Our officers were never too sure about Les's tale, but a few months later the Java Party came up. These were the people taken prisoner in Java. Word came through that Airey was one of the Java Party, so of course the officers raced over there and said, "Righto, what's this tale? We had heard about you being lined up and shot with the firing squad." Fred Airey said, "I have never ever mentioned that since it happened. They would knock me off quick and lively if they knew. How do you know?" And they told him about McCann, and he said, "That's right." Fred said the Japanese lined them up, and with the first volley the Japanese fired into them, they were falling over, so he took a dive. He went down in the ditch and laid still. He did not move at all. He said after they were all down, some of the blokes were moving about a bit, and the Japanese came through and shot them again. Luckily McCann was out of it, so he did not move. Airy said. He waited until after the Japanese had gone, then had a look around and said everyone else was dead, so he took off. He made it down as far as Java. If he had not turned up, no one would have believed McCann's tale. Now, from then on, after having survived this, he basically was told by the guy who helped him in the hospital to say that he was an ambulance driver that had been shot, as the Japanese had shot up some ambulances in the taking over of Singapore, and to say that he'd been lost in the jungle. So eventually he got better, and he went and he was in the Changi prison camp with all the other POWs. Now, why I raise this is because on the 1st of April this year, 2017, I went to a site that I had been keeping my eye on, and I was waiting for the grass to be cut in a public open space. And I went all around the site and just junk and more junk, and surprisingly a lot of cement with metal in it. So I was picking up these signals, but every time I dug, it was really hard. It was in or below the cement, which is still there on the site. I've dug a few items which you'll see here in a minute. Took a few photos. I wasn't actually filming, and I was getting a bit down because it was just so much junk. Anyway, I decided that was it. I was going to leave the site, and I started to make a beeline to the car, and swinging as you do with the metal detector, I got a signal. Now I dug down, and what you're about to see is the item that I found. And this is a picture of what it looked like when I cleaned it up. Now, I posted on Facebook and had a great response from the North Queensland Metal Detecting Facebook group and the Aussie Metal Detecting Facebook group. And I want to thank them for their help, because all the information that I've just relayed to you has come through all that research that they did to help me. Sometime later, I was looking to see if there was any more interviews with Leslie McCann, and I actually found, I'm going to place the link in the description of this video. Now, Leslie McCann, in this video, he was interviewed in the year 2000. I've had that confirmed by the National Archives of Singapore, and it was an audio interview of POWs, and he was interviewed by a lady called Lily Tan. Now, in the interview, he talks about how while they were prisoners in the Changi prison camp, that a Zero fighter plane, Japanese Zero fighter plane, was crashed by a Japanese pilot on the Changi airstrip, which was close to the Changi prison. Now, they asked if they could salvage the aluminium and things from that plane, which they were allowed to. And out of this material, which you'll hear in the interview, he states that they made a lot of items for each other out of the aluminum, because it was very pliable, and with the limited tools they had, they could make items out of it. He does mention at a certain point that they made all sorts of items, including ID bracelets. Now, the item that I've found, he mentions that he had an ID bracelet which he could not find. He didn't know where it had gone. I'll leave a notation of where and at what point in the minute range of that audio is. And what I have found is Leslie McCann's ID wrist bracelet that he made. With the help of the people in the Facebook groups, we found that L.W. McCann is Leslie William McCann. To the left of the image in the middle is CE, which must be Church of England. To the right it's A2, and that must be his blood type. Down the bottom is his service number. And in the middle, the item, the image is the insignia of the second of the 4th Machine Gun Battalion. This is a handcrafted wrist ID bracelet made from a crashed Japanese World War II Zero fighter plane by an Australian POW that survived a Japanese firing squad where they were all murdered. That is unbelievable. And this whole experience of finding this has really blown me away. I want to thank everybody who's helped me. I'm going to put links so you can read the stories and have a look for yourself and hear the audio of Mr. Leslie McCann. So he did come home. He died in 2003 at the age of 81. So I'll try and finish with some up-close pictures of the item and the craftsmanship of it. I'd love to know how they did a lot of this. So accurate around that emblem in the middle. Engraving that. It looks like engraving, but when you look at it up close, it's just hard to know how they did it, how he did it. It's just very straight. The lines are very straight. It's like so close to perfect. In the middle it's a lot more, but he talks in that interview, which you'll hear if you listen to it, the limited tools they had. So on the wrist it's like that. Alright guys, take care, good luck out there, and bye for now.